Hello, my name is Robbie. On here, I'm Templar Knight. Every person who believes in God but does not go to church has a story why. But it's said that whenever two or more gather in God's name, that He's there. So this is church. Welcome. I'm glad you're here. Tonight is the direct result of divine intervention at its finest. Despite how much I tried to get out of this one, God said, nope, nope, you're doing this. Last week, we did a Q&A Bible study, which was basically playing a game of Stump the Pastor. We got together, and instead of going to this screen where I'm in my own little world now, I don't see chat, I don't know what's going on, I can convey God's message here. Instead of doing this, we stayed in our normal chat and we had conversations and asked questions. And there were some awesome questions brought up. There was some amazing knowledge being shared, and I'm thankful we did it. But there was one thing that I learned, and I'm going to go to the Bible for this. We're going to start out with Proverbs 18, verse 15. Wise men and women are always learning, always listening for fresh insight. After Bible study, I always make sure people know that I'm around and available. Feel free to send me messages, contact me on Discord. I'm always trying to be around to talk. And we had a new person show up who felt like reaching out to me because they were confused by something I said. And this guy was totally cool about it. We talked for a while, we shared opinions, we talked about stuff, we looked stuff up in the Bible. And we came to a very, very solid consensus that I was wrong. And I need to make it clear because what I was wrong about is very important. And what I was wrong about was my take on suicide. I had said something. I had said that suicide was an unforgivable sin. And that caught his attention because suicide is not an unforgivable sin. And we went through the Bible and we went through other references and looked up bunches of stuff, and he was right. He has been through some things to where he knew this topic better than me. And I am thankful that God used him to set me straight. Because suicide, despite how horrible it is, there is only one sin that is unforgivable. And that is dying without ever knowing and trusting Jesus. Speaking blasphemy against him. To not accept the Lord into your heart. That is the one unforgivable sin. I'm not sure where I got the idea that suicide was not forgivable. I don't know why. It's what I always thought. I don't know. But I was wrong. And I need to admit that. We all know around here, I'm not perfect. I will make mistakes. And I'm not doing this as a beating myself down thing. I am grateful for the experience I had in that conversation. Because sometimes I need to remember that I can still learn. God still has a lot to teach me. And it was warming for me to be learning something new. To find out that something I had always thought I knew was wrong. So I got to prepare this week. And I got to find out the truth about suicide. And this is a difficult topic. But we're going to push through this. It says in Matthew 12, verse 31 and 32, that there is nothing done or said that can't be forgiven. But if you deliberately persist in your slanders against God's Spirit, or you repudiate, sorry, a big word, or you are, a big word, repudiating, or you are repudiating the very one who forgives. But if you are deliberately persists in your slanders against God, or you are repudiating the very one who forgives, if you reject the Son of Man out of some misunderstanding, the Holy Spirit can forgive you. But when you reject the Holy Spirit, you are sawing off the branch in which you are sitting, serving by your own perversity, severing by all perversity all connection with the one who forgives. So what's that saying is that if you are misled to not believe, even that can be forgiven. But when you knowingly reject, that is the unforgivable sin. I'm going to throw out one more Bible verse because I'm not quite ready to talk about it yet. So, one more verse. I've used this one several times. Romans 3 verse 23 and 24. For all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God, and all are justified freely by his grace through the redemption that came by Jesus Christ. We are all sinners, all of us. But we are all redeemed by God's grace. Now, the reason I'm talking about that is because suicide is a sin. It is murder. It is murdering of yourself. And murder is a very big sin. I mean, all sins are equal in God's eyes, but murder, in my opinion, not God's eyes, but in my eyes, is worse because of the damage it does. Alright, put the notes away. Let's just do this. Suicide is very difficult for me to talk about because it is something I struggled with. For those of you who know my story, you know that I grew up in the church, but I didn't know God. I was going through the actions, I was going through the motions, saying all the things that needed to be said, singing all the songs I was supposed to sing. But it was just a show I was putting on. Inside I was empty because I didn't have faith. And that emptiness ate away at me. Until I decided that I could not stand it anymore. And I'm not going to say the next sentence because you all know what I'm about to say. But that night, something happened. See, I was stuck with a life that I didn't want. A life that I couldn't deal with. And I wanted out. But God wasn't done with me yet. So Jesus walked in and he says, Robbie, what are you doing, bud? And I told him, I says, God, I've had enough. I want out. I told him that I thought I had nothing to live for. And God told me that if I didn't want my life, He did. And He would take it for me. All I had to do was give it over to Him. So that night, instead of ending my life, I gave my life to the Lord. Now mind you, there was nothing good in this life. It was pain and emptiness and hollowness. And all of a sudden, I didn't have that pain. I didn't have that emptiness, that hollowness, because I gave it over to the Lord. And I was met with calm and peace and grace. And purpose. Because He took that life. And He showed me where I was supposed to be going with it. And so I started following Him. Instead of making my decisions, I said, hey, God, what's next? Go here. Do this. Say this. And so I did. And so began my path that led me here tonight to be conveying this story to you. But what would have happened? What would have happened if Jesus wouldn't have shown up? See, I always talk about the stepping stones that got me to where I am today. The people I've met with, the interactions I've had, all the little steps, the decisions, the interactions that got me to this very moment. And who did what? Who played this part? Who did this role? Who said these phrases to guide me here? Who did God use to lead me? If I had ended it that night, what stepping stones would I not have been there for? In whose life was I that step for? In whose life did God use me to push them in the right direction? To say the right thing at just the right time? To be there, to care, to share, to guide them in His path for them. I almost ruined so many lives. See, despite how hard it was for me, God still needs me. God still needs you. Now, for anyone who is struggling and hurting inside, if you feel like you're near that point, I've been there. Talk to me. Because God is not done with you yet. Despite how much pain you are in, He still needs you. See, suicide doesn't make the pain go away. It takes all the pain you're feeling and it multiplies it tenfold and distributes it amongst everyone who cares for you. For anyone who has known someone who has taken their own life, you know what I mean. Sadly, I've been on that end of it too. See, suicide is never the right answer. That's not God's plan for your life. And I'll admit, it was hard for me because God allowed me to break my life down into something that was no longer worth living, in my opinion. He allowed me to do that to myself. He allowed me to stray from His path so far. But then He came and got me. And He brought me back. And if there's anyone out there struggling, let this be your moment that God brings you back. He's got all these road signs out there telling you where to turn, where to go, what to do. We just don't always listen. And I'm not the only one who's here for you. Everyone I know, whenever this topic comes up, they'll always say, if you're struggling, my direct messages are open. Contact me. Let me know. I can't see chat right now. But if your messages are open, if you want someone to reach out to you if they're struggling, if you will be there for them, say something. Let them know. Because I know I personally would rather hear your story and help you through your pain than hear that you couldn't make it. Because if you don't feel like you're strong enough, God is. If you don't feel like you can endure anymore, He can. And if you don't hear Him calling out to you, we are right here. Let God use the people around you to reach you. Because there are still a lot of important parts in your life. Places that He needs you to be so you can have a specific interaction with someone to guide them along His path. What if it's me? What if it's your spouse, your kids, your parents, your friends, your neighbors? What if God needs you to be that person so that you can be there and guide them? Right now you're like, man, I'm the one who needs the guidance. I'm the one who needs the help. And you're right. So let us be here for you so that you can be there for us.